Thanks for joining today's Aim High webinar. The webinar is being recorded. The on-demand archive will be posted to the AAA website within 48 hours of the live session and will be included in the next AAA Member Digest e-newsletter. A link for today's slides will be posted in the chat shortly and was included in the reminder email. To ask questions, please use the Q&A function, double dialogue bubble button. The chat will be disabled for participants. Just stand by a minute while we wait for more people.
And thank you, Ben. We will repeat that announcement at the top of the webinar as well. So thank you. Thank you for that good practice run, and you were amazing.
All right. Thank you for joining today's Aim High webinar. The webinar is being recorded. The on-demand archive will be posted to the AAA website within 48 hours of the live session and will be included in the next AAA Member Digest e-newsletter. A link to the slides for today's session will be posted in the chat shortly and was included in the reminder email. To ask questions, please use the Q&A function, double dialogue bubble button. The chat will be disabled for participants. Chip, the floor is yours.
Thanks everyone for joining us. I'm Chip Decker. I'm the CEO of Richmond Ambulance Authority and the president of Aim High. A little bit about Aim High. It's the Academy of International Mobile Healthcare Integration, and we represent high performance emergency medical and mobile healthcare providers in the US and Canada. Our members are leading the transformation of EMS to mobile integrated healthcare through the development of high performance systems and setting the standard for clinical excellence, accountability, public education, research, and economic efficiency. Anyone wishing to join can check out our website. It's up there at the top right, aimhigh.mobi. And I'd like to thank all of our participants today and enjoy the webinar.
Thanks, Chip. And I'm Matt Zavotsky. I am the Education Committee Chair for the Aim High group. And just want to also plug that later this week, Aim High will be distributing its most recent benchmark survey, looking at the performance metrics from several high-performance EMS systems that are Aim High members. We've been doing that now for the last many years. So keep an eye out for that because it really does depict what high-performance, high-value emergency medical services really looks like from a true performance level and accreditations and a number of different things. This will be the first of two benchmark surveys that are released this year. The next one should be out next quarter as well. So with the less important things out of the way, I want to thank you guys for joining this webinar, but most importantly, thank our panelists. This has been a hot topic in EMS for the last couple of years. And the people that have volunteered, perhaps been voluntold to be part of this webinar are truly amazingly wonderful people. And I want to let them introduce themselves to all of you. Let's start with Ashley. Ashley, tell us about yourself.
Hi, my name is Ashley DePalma. I currently reside in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I work for Mecklenburg EMS Agency. My role here is Paramedic Crew Chief as well as Assistant Operations Supervisor.
Awesome. Thank you. Eilah, off to you.
Hi, I'm Eilah Cook. I work for Richmond Ambulance Authority. I'm an EMT on night shift, and I work, down in Richmond, Virginia.
Awesome. And just so you all know, we're going to have to end exactly at the top of the hour because Eilah is very concerned about making it to work on time, especially since her boss's boss is attending this webinar and introduced the whole webinar. So make sure it's better to work on time. All right, Christine.
Hi, my name is Christine Martinez. I am from Fort Worth, Texas, and I represent MedStar Mobile Healthcare. I am a human resource business partner, so I get the lovely
What? We may have lost your audio. Oh, did Christine freeze for everybody?
I think so.
Yeah.
All right. Christine, we'll come back to you. Maybe check your internet connection there. The tin can and the strings might need to be pulled a little bit tighter. Thomas, please introduce yourself.
I'm Thomas Wabi. I'm an operations manager at Pro EMS in Cambridge, Mass. I'm a paramedic, and I currently oversee scheduled
task of actually recruiting.
All right, Christine's back.
Christine's back.
So sorry, I have no idea what just happened. Technology. My name is Christine Martinez. I am a HR business partner for MedStar Mobile Healthcare in Fort Worth, and I focus on recruiting EMTs and medics.
Awesome. Thanks, Christine. Thanks for stretching the tin cans tighter. Thomas, why don't we start from the top for you, sir, so that people get the full flow.
Sure. I'm Thomas Wabi. I'm an operations manager at Pro EMS in Cambridge, Mass. I'm a paramedic, and I oversee schedule, dispatch, and recruitment and retention.
And Pro EMS, amazing organization. The president-elect for Aim High, Rob Lawrence, is from Pro EMS, and your organization has been phenomenal with the industry. So again, thank you for volunteering to be part of this webinar. Okay, so let's start with each of you guys telling us a little bit about your EMS systems, how they function, service area, perhaps call volume, the type of community, etc. So why don't we start with, and we'll go in reverse order. So Thomas, we'll start with Pro.
Sure. So Pro, we're based in Cambridge, Mass. We are contracted by the city to do the emergencies in Cambridge. Cambridge is 6 square miles, but very densely populated. We do, on average, I think it's around 27,000 transports a year, ALS and BLS transporting in Cambridge. And then we do have a secondary service area out in the suburbs where we do ALS intercept for 7 BLS fire departments. In addition to that, we have a Center for Medics, a paramedic school in-house, and Prodigy EMS, the online learning management system, and a couple other business lines.
All right, thanks. That's awesome. Pro's great group. Christine, to you about MedStar.
So MedStar Mobile Healthcare is actually an interlocal agency. So we service the city of Fort Worth as well as about 13 other member cities. We are a high volume system. We have about 190, a little bit over calls a year. We do 911. We also do enter facilities. Our teams, we run on system status control. So our teams work anywhere between 12 to 13-hour shifts. And one really cool thing about MedStar is that we have been on the forefront of mobile integrated health. So we identify high utilizers of the 911 system, and we actually create individual care plans to help keep them healthy and give them a better quality of life.
Very well said. Thanks, Christine. Eilah, Richmond. Now remember, Chip is tuned in, so.
Lots of pressure. So Richmond Ambulance Authority, we service the entire city of Richmond. It is a very densely populated area. They average, we average 900 calls or so a week. We do interfacility and 911, and our population on a weekday could be anywhere from 500,000 to 750,000, and then at nighttime that drops to about 1/4 of a million. But the call volume doesn't seem to slow down any night or day. We do work pretty closely with other agencies, Henrico, Hanover, especially when mutual aid is needed, but we're a very tight-knit system.
Hey, and Chip will appreciate me mentioning this. I think for years, Richmond had the highest murder rate per capita. Is that still true? I don't know. Chip can chime in on the Q&A if that's true, but certainly a wonderful community and capital of Virginia, right?
It is, yes. Capital city.
Yep. All right. And who does that leave? Ashley.
Yeah. So Medic is the sole ambulance provider for Mecklenburg County EMS services. 546 square miles. We serve 1.1 million residents. We're a high volume system. We work really closely with Charlotte Fire Department and 13 other county-based fire departments to run our calls. We have about 15 emergency departments within the county. Last year we did 155,000 911 calls. We have lots of departments within our headquarters. So we have CMed, which is our dispatch center, obviously field operations, fleet, and a whole logistics department. We supply EMS to the Charlotte Douglas Airport. We actually have crews inside the airport, and we also have a team of special operations paramedics who work closely with law enforcement.
And for those who travel a lot and go through Charlotte Airport, you'll see medics, golf carts, and ways, and it's really impressive to see the layout that they have. That is a huge facility. So as someone who flies through that airport a lot, thank you for your service to that airport. I worry about it a lot. So as you can see, we've got some very diverse systems represented, and they are all very high performance. They're all AIM High members. So they really do a very effective job in their communities. A few of them are public entities through that public utility model system, and certainly Pro as a high performance contractor for cities. So again, a very diverse group of folks that we have here. Okay, so I'm going to randomly pick some folks. The first question that we want to ask you guys is, what inspires you to seek a career in EMS? So Eilah, let's start with you.
So I actually have a little bit of an interesting background. I'm a military child. I have lived in about 12 states and then one European country. With all of that moving around, I have learned that I'm a very people-oriented person. I've always had the mindset of wanting to help when and where I can. So EMS kind of just naturally became something that I was interested in through like science classes in high school. And it allowed me to still be able to move around the way I was and have a steady career. So that was my biggest thing, was I can help people and it doesn't limit me on where I can go.
It's true. And as an HR person, Kristen will probably remind us of that, because Christine recruits people from all over the place, and people from as far away as Alaska, very mobile, and all sorts of different places. Well, how long have you been with Richmond?
I've been with Richmond for about 6 months now. I've only been back in the state for about 8, so that's
okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Thomas, why EMS?
So I came out of college pre-med and was looking at med school, and didn't want to be the guy in med school that had never talked to a patient before. So I went to EMT school. In EMT school, I was frustrated that the answer to all the scenarios was call ALS. So I started researching medic programs, found Center for Medics, and that's how I found Pro. Came here for medic school, told myself I'd work as a medic for a year and then go off to med school. 8 years later, I'm still here. I love what I do and not going back to school.
All right. Wow. You know, you could do what some medical directors do, and they work as a paramedic for a long time, or even as an EMT for a very long time, go to medical school and come back as a medical director of an EMS agency. So
A lot of school.
yeah, there's a lot of school. It is, especially with now the board certifications in emergency medical services.
Mhm.
All right, Ashley, how about you?
Yeah, my EMS journey, like many other people, started as me entering into EMT school, thinking that I was going to use it as a stepping stone into another career possibility. Um, During my ride time shifts and just responding to calls, I ran a couple calls, but one specifically that really struck me and showed me how special this career can be. Um, I had no idea what I was doing during those ride time shifts when I was first starting out, but just the comfort that it brought to people that we were even there was something that I felt was special, and I fell in love with it and just wanted to do more with it.
And how long have you been with Medic?
I've been with Medic now almost 6 years. I've been working in EMS for 11.
So you opened the door without violating any HIPAA rules. Tell us about the call.
Yeah, it was so it was one of my first ride time shifts. It was an 18-wheeler versus a car on a dark back road in Horry County where I started out. And there were some teenagers in the car. And without going into too much detail, it was not a fun scene to be a part of. And not knowing what to do in that moment was quite scary. But all I did on the way to the hospital was just talk to the patient and be there for her. And I could just tell that she was extremely thankful for even that. So
Yeah, that many field providers have similar stories. Thing that just locked them in. All right, and Christine, how about you?
Well, as a recruiter, I actually did not choose EMS, but I have loved every minute in it. I find that recruiting EMTs and medics, they're some of the most passionate and selfless people in the industry. They love what they do and they love their communities. They're in it for the mission. And so I think that if I have the choice, I'm going to stay in EMS.
And Christine, how long have you been at MedStar?
I've been here for 3 years.
Okay. And your comments are very insightful because as our primary recruiter and onboarding specialist and then shepherder of the team that does the new hire process, you get to see that every day in people through their interview process, their applications. What's that like from the recruiting side?
From the recruiting side, it's really great to see people blossom into it. So they come in for especially the newer EMTs, right? The newer EMTs come in not really knowing what to expect. And I call them my ducklings because I'm with them from application until they start their new orientation process. So I get to interact with them at a really fun time when they're excited and a little bit scared, right? Because they don't know what they're walking into. But by and large, the people that come here are so excited to be here. This is something that they worked for. A lot of them have personal stories about how EMS impacted them and how when they were little, someone saved their grandma. When they were little, they saw a really bad car accident and, the people came in and they saw those things in our community and wanted to be a part of it. And so being able to interact with them and get to know their why. One of the questions we asked them in their interview is why EMS? Why did you choose this direction to go in your career? And all of them, almost without doubt, say they want to help people. That's their why.
Wow. Great. Interesting insight. Thank you. Okay, next question for the panel. And just a reminder for the attendees, feel free to shoot questions into the Q&A chat. Ben is going to call those as we get to the Q&A portion of the webinar. So your questions will be answered from this group of very wonderful people. Next question, Thomas, what do you like most about your career?
I like that it's something different every day. You go into your day not knowing what's going to come, but get out in the world, help people, or help people. And I like that I'm not sitting in an office. I don't know. I like what I do.
It's not like sitting in an office writing code, right? It's
Right.
something.
Exactly.
Right. Thanks. Ashley, what do you like most?
I most enjoy the autonomy of the career. You and your partner leave the station and you go out and you make decisions for your patients. And most of the time it's you and the first responders, and you guys are just a team, and you have to go out there and make those hard decisions. It's also really empowering that you can show up to someone's house, a complete stranger, and the trust that they give you in that moment, in like the worst moment of their life, is something really special to see.
That is true. You see people at their best and you see people at their worst in every part of that. Eilah, how about you?
I think for me, it's that there's always something new to learn. You're never gonna have just dull moments in this career, and you'll always learn some, even if the call could be the exact same textbook from one call to the next, and there's still something new to learn. And that is probably my favorite thing about this job.
Yeah, it's a lot of that. Very good insight. And Christine, wrap up with me.
The crazy thing is, even though I'm not out, I'm part of a team, right, that brings the EMTs and the medics that are giving them that opportunity. Our system is very much like Ashley's. It sounds like we have a fleet, we have logistics, we have our 911 dispatchers. And so being able to see that part of it and see how it takes a village legitimately to, everyone pitching in, doing their part. So even though we're not on the front lines, we very much appreciate those who are, and we do our best to support them. And I think that's what I like most, is knowing that I may not be out there helping, but I know that I am part of the system that is making it able for them to go and help.
Awesome. Yeah, as an HR person, it's a little bit different from your perspective than the folks that might be in the field quite a bit. Okay, next question as we move along, and we'll start with Eilah. What frustrates you the most about your career besides working nights and shift decker? That's already a given.
I love night shift. I chose night shift. It's so hard. I feel like it's so hard to pick just one thing.
That frustrates you.
That frustrates me just about the career.
Yeah.
I think for me, probably my biggest one is the lack of education within my community on what is an emergency and what is urgent versus what can be like a scheduled doctor's appointment. And that's not to say that that's the fault of anyone in particular, just in general, how society is taught to treat EMS and like what constitutes an emergency. It's frustrating. I won't say that I don't dislike it, because again, I get to see a lot of interesting things. I get to learn a lot of things on those calls that maybe to me aren't an emergency, but they are to someone else. But there are a lot of nights where me and my partner will look at each other and wonder why at 3 a.m. this is a 911 call, and then you get there and it becomes obvious to you why this was a 911 call. But it's hard in that moment to separate those two things.
Wow. Yeah, I think a lot of us still feel that frustration. Ashley, how about you? What frustrates you the most?
I agree with Eilah on that, the education, and even more so than that, just the knowledge disparity as to the public and even sometimes other healthcare providers as far as what we can do and like the capabilities in our scope. The schedule, as you said, it can also be hard. We never close. We work on holidays, birthdays, it doesn't matter. As much as I would love a 9-to-5 lifestyle, that's not the reality of the job. So it can be a little hard to adjust.
And it's a trade-off, right? I mean, the excitement, the autonomy, all of that comes with the fact that it's a 24/7 occupation, and that's just the expectation. So it's challenging.
Absolutely.
Thomas, what makes you nuts?
I definitely agree with Eilah and Ashley on both of those counts. Also, to piggyback a little bit about what Ashley said about how not everyone knows what EMS providers can do. I think also being treated more as transport than as healthcare providers. Since EMS's inception, the level of clinical sophistication and care we are able to provide is vastly changed. And I know from legislatively and from the billing side of things that we're treated more as transporting someone from point A to point B, and from that's it, not the high level of care that we all provide.
True, and that's something that many of us, including AIM High members, have promoted for a long time, is that we need to be viewed and operate in systems as providers of medical care, not suppliers of transportation. Very important. Christine, we'll wrap it up with you for this question.
So I'm going to spin it a little bit because part of my job is, reaching out to crews and doing engagement. And I think, again, to almost everybody's point, a lot of frustration comes from the disparity between them and other first responders in our system, right? They kind of feel like the redheaded stepchild, if you will, when they're being compared to, the police officers and the firefighters, even though we work alongside the firefighters and we take over the calls medically when we get on scene. A lot of time it does seem for them that, the credit is going to fire, the credit is going to police. And a lot of time they do just look at our people who are out there providing the care as the taxi, if you will.
Yeah, one of the slides that we'll use often in presentations is a picture of an ambulance windshield with an Uber emblem, and that we are way more than that. And you're right, we just need to change that mindset, and that's up to all of us. All right, our next question. You guys represent a very different demographic than many of us are used to working with historically. From your perspective, what is your preferred of method of engagement and communication? It's probably different than what mine might be. It's perhaps different than others. But let's start this question with Ashley.
Me personally, it depends on the topic that is being discussed. If it's just simply like an agency update or general information, company changes like those, I would prefer electronic communication, email, text. For bigger changes that would directly affect me or my employees, I would prefer more of a face-to-face conversation with that.
And how often, from your perspective, do you like to interact with your immediate supervisor?
I have quite a bit of interaction with my immediate supervisor.
How much would you like to have? How much do you have?
I enjoy my immediate supervisor. So our schedules are a little different. So I work mainly at night and she is on mainly during the day. So I see her kind of in passing. I think that is good because she's there immediately when I get in. So if I have any questions or need anything in that moment, she can help. I think if our schedules matched up a little bit more, it would be a bit easier.
Okay. Good insight. Christine, how about you?
I think I'm kind of along the same. If there is something specific to a specific person that I feel like I have too much information to put into an email, I will call them, right? Because it's just easier to try to have that conversation over the phone versus trying to put everything into an email. One thing I will say though, in dealing with in recruiting right now, what I'm getting a lot of is text messages. I get a lot of text messages because my company phone does receive text, and I have found that it's a little bit easier to get that communication through the text messages. At first, I kind of was like, this is super unprofessional because it's text messages, but it's super effective. for the people that are coming in because their phones are in their hand most of the time, and it's easy for them to see, you know, in their text messages. So I've actually found that texting has been effective for me.
Okay, and as someone, and part of that expectation is different too. So back in the day, when many of us were early in our career, those of us that have gray beards, most communication was done in writing by snail mail, then fax, and then email, and then now text message and others. The expectation for communication changes with that. When you would send a letter to someone, you were fine waiting a week to get a reply. When we went to fax, perhaps you expect a response in a day. When we went to email as a primary method of communication, now it's hours that you expect a response. And certainly with text, you would expect a response in minutes. So it changes the interaction and the expectation, perhaps, for that feedback, if you will. That's really good. And Christine, staying with you for a minute, the engagement piece. So you work with Desi and a number of folks at MedStar that do a lot of employee engagement. What are some of the things that you have found to be most effective to engage with the workforce?
You know, I think what's been most effective is giving them opportunities to engage with each other. There's a lot of science out there now that says that some of the most effective people are the people that have friends at work. And that's a little bit of a different mindset from, you know, past generations. But the proof is in the pudding, right? So the people that have friends, the people that have a connection at work, it makes them want to show up, it makes them want to do well, and it makes them feel like they belong somewhere. And so we do, like during EMS week, it's a very popular thing. We do capture the flag, and everybody gets involved, even the hospitals. And you know, it's this big game. Every department has a flag. Some departments have multiple flags. Hospitals have flags, and it's just a really good opportunity to bring some fun, but also everybody has to have a team, right? So we'll make teams, we'll go attack each other to get each other's flags, but it's just giving that opportunity for people to engage with each other that I think has been the most effective engagement strategies.
It's a really good point that a lot of people might not realize. The capture the flag game that Christine references, we've been doing at MedStar for the last several years, and we had to set rules, obviously. And one of the first questions that we got from some of our workforce was, because we were using Nerf guns to, you know, capture the flags, and people said, "Can we use real guns?" Because real guns. So yeah, it's also often very interesting. Eilah, how about you? Preferred method of engagement and communication?
For me, it definitely depends on the urgency of the correspondence. If it is not an urgent matter, like Ashley was saying, like if it's general updates on the company or, you know, things that don't directly involve me today in this moment, I prefer to get those over email. I can read them on my own time. They don't necessarily need a response. Now, if someone is texting me, I'm hoping that it's something that's a little bit more urgent, something to do with the shift or that day of information that's going out. And obviously, if it is extremely urgent and a face-to-face cannot happen in that moment in time, please call me, you know, pick up the phone. As much as I don't like phone calls, I will absolutely answer a phone call for something that is urgent. So
now
yeah.
that's the quote of the webinar, y'all. So Ben, that's the Xable comment, right? As much as I don't like phone calls. Thanks. All right, thanks, Eilah. And Thomas, let's bring it home with you.
Definitely agree with all of that, especially the timeline that Eilah was talking about. So for the quickest response, a phone call. If it can wait a few minutes, a text. If it's something that is not imminently important or is going to require like a longer response, that gives me a little more time to think about it. An email is awesome. In terms of method of engagement, I definitely like trying to engage people to make people feel like they're part of a community at work is important. And also when trying to communicate changes and things that people need to do differently, make sure to give the why. not just what you need to do, but why and why it's important and why it should be important to them.
Awesome. Great counsel. And Thomas, let's stick with you. We'll lead off the next question with you. Aside from something that I may have said during our practice sessions, what is the most out of touch thing that an older person has said to you, or something that you think was just inappropriate based on your perception in your generation?
Pass.
Oh, now that's inappropriate, right? All right, then we'll
I
come
don't
back to
have a
you.
great answer for that one.
But I'm going to mark it that we got to come back to you on that one. So let's do Ashley.
I have been asked in the past, when I was actually promoted to this position, if I believe that I got this position based on being a minority status, or that I check a lot of boxes.
And how did that make you feel?
Frustrated.
Is the person still alive? Those who said that?
Yeah. No harm telling that person, but it's it's easy to put yourself into that headspace of thinking, well, did I? But then you kind of have to think back to all the steps that you took to get to where you are, and just appreciate the hard work that you've put into it.
Well, I'm sorry I had to experience that. It's terrible. Christine.
Yeah, I'm just recovering because as an HR professional, that's my worst nightmare, right? I think one of the most out of touch things I've heard somebody from an older generation say is that people who have dyed hair or tattoos shouldn't be able to practice medicine, which is a crazy notion to me because I think in their mind it's unprofessional, right? Hair color or tattoos were in a past life deemed unprofessional. But I think by and large now that there's a very big notion that I don't really care if your hair is pink as long as you're providing me medical care. That your appearance and the way you choose to do your hair, the way you choose to put art on your body really has nothing to do with your ability to do your job. And so I think that's a really hard thing for older generations to come around to. But I definitely remember thinking, I don't care if their hair's pink, if as long as they don't let me die.
That raises another question that we hadn't really, and I apologize for this, we hadn't discussed it, but show of hands of the panelists, who's got body art? Yeah, I mean guys, this is the new generation, right? And I know a number of police agencies and fire agencies have had to deal with this as well. And my wife is a flight attendant, and the airlines are having to deal with it. And people, certainly Gen Z, express themselves through body art, through tattoos, and we have to change our perception on that particular thing. And I've got several tattoos, and so does my wife. So yeah, it's becoming more mainstream, and we just in some cases just have to get over ourselves, including the hair color. I know several organizations have reached out recently for examples of new personal appearance policies, because the old ones limit their ability to recruit people. And how do they change their personal appearance policy to be able to recruit and retain the TikTok generation? So something certainly to keep in mind. Our last canned question, and we'll go through around the room as well, but what advice do you have for EMS agency leaders about how to recruit and retain Gen Z generation members? And Christine, since you're our HR recruiter, we'll let you lead off this question.
I think one of the hardest things to do is to check your bias, right? Because every generation has a bias, right? But for Gen Z in particular, there's this notion that they're entitled, that they don't want to work, that they have no loyalty, right? And those aren't necessarily actually true. Gen Z is actually the most value forward generation that we've had. They are very much so the generation that if the job doesn't align with their values, no matter how much money it is, or if it's going to compromise their work-life balance, that they're not going to take it because they've been raised to advocate for themselves and set boundaries, and these things that come off as entitled is them advocating for themselves. And so it's really hard, I think, for people, especially because they want to incite change, right? Nobody likes change, but this generation in particular they have information at their fingertips, and they've had it at their fingertips. So they are used to things moving quickly and used to things changing quickly. And so when they come into agencies or organizations and they want to change things, the older generations are looking at them crazy, like, how are you going to come in here and tell us what needs to change, right? That's a really hard thing for managers and leaders to come onto. And I guess my advice for that is to be patient, right? Patience first. To be able, to Thomas's point, to give them a why. Give them, here's the why we do it, and work with them instead of against them to say, okay, if that's your perspective, right, and that doesn't work, tell me what works better. Come out with me a solution, and let's work together to give that, because that's going to give them purpose. That's what they want. They want to change the world. They believe they can change the world. And so when you stopgap them or you railroad them, that's going to immediately discourage them, right? That's going to immediately tell them that, no, these people they don't hear me, they don't see me, they don't value me. And so I'm going to go find somewhere else, right? And on the other side of recruiting them, it gives it a big challenge too, because they're looking for community. They're looking for a culture of acceptance, a culture that allows them to be innovative and grow. And so in order to recruit them, you have to be able to build that culture within your agencies to really give them that ability. And I know we talk about it a lot. We talk a lot about how we're a 24/7 agency, and there's a lot of room for work-life balance, but a lot of times people see 24-hour agency and they shy away from it, right? Because they're like, oh, that means I have to work all the time. Actually, what it means is it's going to give you a little bit more work-life balance, right? Because we have schedules that are, for us in particular, we mainly work 36 hours one week, which is 3 shifts, and 48 hours the next week, which is 4. So when you're talking about work-life balance, you want to work 4 10s. Well, how about 3 12s? Really being able to kind of shift the narrative and really focus on that work-life balance. We do have work-life balance. We do have a culture of community. We are here to help you grow, versus we're the highest paid agency in the state. Come work for us, right? So.
Awesome. Great insight. Thomas, we're going to come to you, but you get a twofer because you still owe us from the last question. So start with the most inappropriate thing that someone has said to you, and then you can answer then you can give the advice about recruiting you folks.
All right. The most out of touch thing I think someone said to me, I don't even remember the context. I don't know what I did to earn it, but I was told that I was arrogant, and if my head got any bigger, it wouldn't fit in the ambulance. But,
wow. Okay.
but for the how to recruit and retain Gen Z, I definitely want to echo a lot of what Christine was saying about work-life balance. I think a lot of our Gen Z employees they definitely put a lot more weight on their work-life balance than a lot of us did. And so we've done things to change how we do our medic students that are EMT employees of ours. We started lessening their work hour requirements while they're in medic school to make things more attainable. So during medic school, we drop their work hours to 24 hours a week when they're doing clinicals and ride time, but we still pay them for 40 while subsidizing their medic school tuition. Something like that is way more important to the Gen Z employees than when I went through medic school. I was picking up overtime, right? but it's different. In terms of recruitment, got to find them where they are. So we've been doing a lot of recruitment events at schools, at EMT schools first off, but also going to the local colleges and high schools even, and doing ride-alongs, and whatever we're doing is working. We're actually overstaffed right now. I'm looking at the numbers this morning. We're 144% staffed ALS and 115% staffed BLS. Definitely, I respect that's not where everyone's system is, but something we've been working towards.
Clearly that's working, Thomas, so good job. Ashley, what advice do you have?
I have a couple pieces of advice, so bear with me. So through talking to some of our new hire Gen Z employees, I can tell you that valuing their time in the initial phase of things is very important. So the interview phase, make sure that you are consulting with them what works best for them. Is it a virtual interview? Is it an in-person interview? Because that's the first way of you showing them that you respect their time and what they have going on with their life. Don't be afraid to use platforms like Instagram, TikTok. That's where Gen Z is. That's where they live. If they have EMS in their algorithm within your area, your page will pop up to them. These days, like we've mentioned LinkedIn. It's fading. Like I wouldn't assume anyone in the Gen Z population has a LinkedIn account. This is something I'm really passionate about, but make sure that your current employees are providing quality experiences to students that are riding on their trucks. Place student riders with people who genuinely want to teach them and have the passion for teaching, and who are able to understand that this job can be a little mentally draining and can take that minute with the student after the call to debrief them and do a check-in and say, are you okay? Career pathways, you need to have them in your agency. You need to train your people to do them. You need to pay them to get that training, because you want to show them that they can grow and they can have a long, prosperous career with your agency. So pathways, earn while you learn programs. And then the biggest thing is, I think, hearing your people. Like Christine said, this generation, they hold their values tight to their chest. They have a lot of self-respect. They want to be heard. They want to empower change. So listen to what your employees are telling you. And if you make promises, follow through with them, because trust is hard to gain back once you break it. And if you don't listen to your employees, there are lots of other services out there that will happily listen to them.
But very, very sage counsel. Love the concept about selecting your preceptors well. I know for many organizations, their number one recruiting field are the students that are doing the ride along. So great counsel. Eilah, let's let you have the last word on this.
So from what it sounds like, I think I am the Gen Z on this panel, which is a very interesting experience. I will say, from a recruitment standpoint, being very new to the area that I'm in, I did just recently go through this process, and my biggest takeaways are always going to be, how honest is a company upfront with me? If I have questions and I find out and I get answers, and then I find out 3 months into this job that is not what that is, that I've been misled to a degree. For me, that is a very hard negative to the company, and makes me rethink my longevity in that company. So be honest upfront with the people that you are interviewing. Maybe there are things about the company that I'm not super happy about, but I can make concessions for if I know what I'm looking for up front. That is by far and large the biggest thing that I look for when I'm looking for a job is I want to be able to be told yes, no, and this is why. That's my big thing. As far as retention goes, I agree with what everyone has said so far. I will also say that if there is no future in a company, for whatever reason a person has, you won't stay. And it is that simple. Career growth opportunities are huge. There's no part of me that wants to stay at the level that I'm at now. I'm here to continue to learn and grow. So if those opportunities aren't present, that might push me to look for something different. I know, like, financially, my generation looks a lot at, financial freedom. We don't want to have to be tied to a desk from 9 to 5 until we're however many years before we can retire. That's not something that my generation looks for anymore. We want to be able to, go on vacation and spend time with our families and just in general live life and not work to live, kind of thing. So for retention, I mean, giving opportunities to your people, so that they can live and not be just another worker. That's where you're going to keep your people around.
Wow. Excellent perspective, Eilah. Thank you very much. Okay, Ben, let's open up our phone lines. I'm sorry, I'm showing my baby boom generation there. Questions from the audience that you want to forward on to the group?
Okay, well, the first question we got today was, what makes you stay at your agency you work for now? What would make you want to leave your current agency and work for another?
All right, let's do this as a lightning round so we can get some of these questions in. And Ashley, go first.
I enjoy where I'm at now due to the pathway that I have chosen to take. There is room for growth and advancement and training, and I love that. The other side of that coin, if there was not room for that, like Eilah said, I would probably be on my way. I would not want to remain stagnant anywhere.
Eilah.
My area in particular is very high acuity calls at all hours of the night. That is what I enjoy most. I am here to help in the instances where no one knows what to do, where everything's a big question mark. As for what would make me leave, what I touched on in the last question, the lack of honesty and the lack of opportunity to have a life outside of work, that would cause me to look elsewhere.
All right, Christine.
For me, it's a lot about leadership. So, the reason why I stay here is because I genuinely do trust our leadership. I do feel that they have our best interests at heart, and that's also what would cause me to leave. Is if I felt unsupported from our leadership team, if I felt like they didn't care about us and just were looking to, look good for publicity's sake or to make more money, anything like that. I really do feel that our leadership cares about us, and that's my biggest thing anywhere I go, is I need to feel like I'm supported by my leader and that my leader understands where I want to go and wants to get me there as well.
Awesome. Thomas.
The North Star here at Pro is do the right thing, and do the right thing for your patients, for our employees, and that's what's kept me here. It's a place that I believe in, and like I'm proud to work here. And the only thing that would make me leave is if that changed.
Good. Excellent. Maintaining that true north. All right, Ben, another question from the audience.
Another question is, how do you figure out the root causes of why employees leave after a couple months only? How does a company get out of this cycle? How does an HR employee create more optimism instead of pessimism throughout a company?
All right, Thomas, you're up. It's a tough one.
If you have people leaving after only a couple months, you should ask them why. But I do think that having a change of perspective of what you're expecting out of your employees is important, right? If the people that you are recruiting are not looking for EMS as a career to stay here for 20, 30 years, that's fine. You just need to change your model. If you need people here for 2 or 3 years to get experience to go to PA school, med school, or go off to a fire department, use them while they're here.
And help them
And
attain
help them
that goal.
get to where they want to be.
Christine.
You know, I echo Thomas's sentiment. The best way you're gonna know why they're leaving is to talk to them. As far as the HR trying to shift that culture, unpopular opinion, HR is not gonna be able to do it by themselves. A lot of time, HR professionals are there as a support, right? My title is HR business partner, and the partner piece of that is really important, to partner with leadership to get them to understand what's going on in their teams, right? Because if there's pessimism, if there's negativity, it's stemming from somewhere, right? Where there's smoke, there's fire. And so really working with your leaders to understand where that smoke is, to understand how to put that fire out, because sometimes you just don't know. You just don't know, whenever there are so many underlying things that it could be. So it really is going to be partnering with your leaders to connect with their teams and understand what it is that they need and what it is that they're not getting to create that negativity.
Thanks, Christine. Eilah.
So again, as someone who just, or not just, but did recently go through this process, it's that a lot of people are leaving after a month, 2 months, 3 months, there may be, I feel like it comes down to two things. One of them would be either a toxic work environment, like you might have some animosity within a space or an operations unit or the fleet. There's something definitely going on. The other side of that would be there's some misrepresentation somewhere. They were promised something that they feel like they are not getting, or it just simply isn't for them. Like everyone has said, it would be best to just ask for feedback. I mean, a phone call, an email, it wouldn't hurt.
Okay, and wrap up with Ashley.
I agree with all of that. We actually do offer exit interviews for people who are choosing to leave so that we can get that feedback. But just like everyone else said, like if you're having a mass exodus of people and you're just losing and your attrition rate is high, like I would take a look at the agency itself, at the leaders. What are the policies? Are we making a safe place for our employees? Are we respecting their time? And just making sure that you're doing the right thing by your people.
Excellent comments. And Ben, as you get our last question that we're going to try and do in a minute and a half, I also want to put in a plug in for stay interviews. I know our organization at MedStar, McCara Trustee, a number of other organizations have done the stay interview. Set up a time to talk to people who are there, who've been there for a year, 5 years, 10 years. Why do they stay? So that you can build upon that and learn from that longevity concept to make it even better. So, Ben, next question.
Does Gen Z want opportunities for team bonding like functions outside of work, kickball, picnics, etc., or do they prefer to have a completely separate and social work-life balance?
All right, 30 seconds for each of you guys. Let's go in reverse order. Ashley.
I think it depends on the person. I have employees who very much want to come to work and then they want to leave work and go live their life. And then a big thing among our night shift employees is they really like the camaraderie of night shift. And so I think that functions are a good idea to put out there to your employees if that's something they're interested in doing.
Awesome. Eilah.
This is something that's going to be agency to agency. I would absolutely put out a poll to your employees. Ask them, hey, if I were to do this, are you interested? Because I know, like me personally, once I leave work, I really don't have any desire to go back into work, even if it's not on duty. That's just me. I know my partner is the opposite. She would love to be at functions all the time.
Wow, interesting. Christine.
I think we do kind of a test and see, right? So we do a lot of different events for lots of different people because lots of people have different interests. So we're very much an agency that will say, let's try this. And if we get attendance, then we know it worked. And if we didn't get attendance, then we know it doesn't work. And so for us, we also, we'll ask our people, what do you want? Like, do you want to have a holiday party? Would you rather have a gift? It really just kind of depends on what, like you said, your agency by agency and what your people are looking for. But I would say, don't be afraid to try, right? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And so take a shot. And if it works, great. If not, then at least you made an effort and you can say that you tried.
And wrapping it up with Thomas.
I definitely think depends is the answer, but we certainly have a lot of success with our events and trying to do a really vast array of different types of events. So we rented out a movie theater for an EMS specific movie. We did a trivia night. We joined a softball league. We have all sorts of different events, some athletic, some not athletic, some with food and booze, some without food and booze. All the fun things.
Awesome. Thanks, Thomas. And as we wrap up the top of the hour, I want to thank our panelists. Amazing job. Great insight. Ben, do you want to again remind them how the people might be able to view the webinar or get some of the support materials?
Yes, thank you very much to today's presenters for an engaging and informative session. The slides for today's session were included in the reminder email you received 1 hour in advance of the call. The slides and sessions for the recording will be posted on the AAA website within 48 hours and will also be emailed out in the next AAA member digest. We hope to see you on another Aim High webinar soon. Thank you all and have a great day.
If I could just ask the panelists to hang out just for 1 minute, that'd be great. And Ben, you can put us into a practice session just so we can chat for a minute.